Hello everybody, and welcome back to another Wings of Fire book review. Today it will be on Wings of Fire Legends Darkstalker, told by the perspective of Darkstalker the Nightwing Icewing, Clearsight the Nightwing, and Fathom the Seawing. There's a lot of history in this book, and it helps support what we hear from the main characters in the main series, primarily the second arc. There's a lot that happens in this book that leads up to the end and what the present day Pyrean Dragons think of these characters. And this book is very popular amongst Wings of Fire readers, and so for those of you who have not read this book and want more information, here is the blurb. 3 dragons, 1 unavoidable, unpredictable destiny. This is the beginning of the end. In the Seawing Kingdom, a young prince learns he is an animus, capable of wonderful magic that comes with a terrible price. In the mind of a Nightwing dragonette, 1,000 futures unfold, and almost all of them, she knows, lead to disaster and destruction. And under 3 full moons and the watchful eyes of his Nightwing mother and Icewing father, the most powerful dragon Empyrea will ever know is clawing his way out of his egg. Darkstalker, the dragon who will change the world forever. Long before the Soundwing War, lifetimes before the Dragonette prophecy, darkness is born. And so, one thing that I do really like about the guide to the dragon world is that the map of Pyrea is different. We see where the old Night Kingdom was located with Queen Vigilance's palace. We see Queen Lagoon's island palace. So, like, the continent is a little bit different than it was before. All the queens are different. We see Queen Crane's palace. We see a scavenger den. Queen Carmen's palace, Queen Scorpion's stronghold, Queen Diamond's palace, Queen Lagoon's island palace. And so we get to see that a guide to the dragons of Pyrea is different, which I really like. It says known animus dragons, and the abilities are a little bit different. Like, with the Nightwings can breathe fire and disappear into dark shadows. Some hatch with the power to read minds or see the future, or very rarely both. And then Rainwings, it shows like that they can camouflage and blend into their surroundings. And we see animus dragons are listed like with the Icewings, Queen Diamond, and her son Prince Arctic. And so I find that really cool. And so the prologue is how Darkstalker's parents met with Foeslayer and Arctic. It's in Arctic's perspective, and he wants to escape his mother's wrath, I guess. Like, he is supposed to come up with a gift to help gain power for the Icewings, and it's a ceremony that they do. If there's an Icewing animus, they have to give a gift to the tribe that makes them stronger. And so Arctic is figuring out his gift, and then when he meets Foeslayer, it's really loving, bittersweet, and sentimental, and I love their interaction. Like, she's jumping around, I love Foeslayer's personality, and Arctic sees this as an escape from royalty and having to live up to this legacy for the Icewings. And so his animus gift is enchanted. Like, he gives Foeslayer an earring that keeps her protected and lets her stay warm, which is super sweet. And this is involved later on, the earring. And then we get to the beginning of the book, part 1, and so Fathom figures out that he's an animus alongside Prince Albatross of the Seawings. And we all know, based on the history and like what we've read from previous books, we've known that he existed since book 2 and that he started a massacre. And so it's very interesting and intriguing to see his character before the big event that happens in this book. And it's like the catalyst of Legends Darkstalker. It's the beginning of many terrifying events in this book, is the massacre. and I really like how it was written. It was very creepy and eerie. And then once Queen Lagoon gets killed by him, I know I'm jumping off from the beginning to like somewhere else in the book, but when it happens, it's really scary, and it's so intriguing. Like, there's so much mystery to Albatross still, even after reading this book and the end of Arc 2. So it's like, I feel like we should get a Legends on Albatross and give us a bigger origin of animus magic. But anyway, so we also get introduced to Clearsight at one point. And she has visions all the time. Like, she hears about Fathom, and her power is stronger than all Four Seers that we know of. And so her father tries to let her, wants her to be calm, and she's like, I can't. She wants to do the best she can to make the best futures possible. And we see Darkstalker hatch in the beginning of this book, chapter 2. And Darkstalker sees that Arctic is full of hatred, and that his mother is nice and loving, and that his sister Whiteout, who is not yet born, and that there's like that moment where he decides like he could help a Whiteout, he could be thoughtful and caring, but from the beginning he is selfish and power hungry, even though he has all the power. But on the back of this book, it says he did not understand yet that he could see the future. He had no idea what the flashes meant. He couldn't follow the paths that were unfolding in his brain, because in effect and consequences were all still beyond him. But in his mother's mind, he found the idea of hope, and in his father's mind, he traced the outline of something called patience. He could wait. Darkstalker, said Mother, hello, darling. She held out her talons, and he climbed onto them willingly, curious to be closer to that warmth. This is my mother, those are my full moons, this is my world now. And so it's him choosing to be the leader and to control the world. That's basically what this is. The most powerful dragon to ever exist is here. And so in the beginning of this, Darkstalker, for the most part, feels like a normal dragon who just wants to help those that he cares about and stop bullies. We see this towards the beginning in a scene with his sister where some dragons who are playing a game sort of like treat Whiteout with disrespect, and Darkstalker thoughtfully takes care of the situation where they end up apologizing. And so in the beginning, he seems like a fairly decent dragon, but then over the course of this book, there's dragons who don't give him a chance. And I think that's one part of why he becomes quote-unquote evil, or starts to turn to the dark side, no pun intended, where there's the massacre, and so then dragons start to have doubts with him. They don't trust him because he's an animus dragon, and they say animus dragons go insane. And Fathom, before this, everything was looking really good. There were a lot of bright futures ahead before the massacre, and so Fathom was trusted. He was looked upon with respect. And a dragon I would like to mention is Indigo, and Indigo is basically Fathom's partner or girlfriend. They love each other, they're already in a relationship, and it's one of the better relationships in this series. I think they get along really well, they help balance each other out, and I really love their interactions. I wish we got to see a little bit more of that, but they care for each other. Fathom wants Indigo to be treated with respect, even though she's from a lower class, but she is a good warrior to help the tribe. And Queen Lagoon, she's horrible. She treats Indigo poorly. She treats her brother, her animus brother, poorly. And she makes it clear to Albatross that you are going to do whatever I want you to do. You have no choices. Nothing that you do or say matters. And so that's when Albatross goes off the rails, kills her, and then at that point, I think he just wanted all of the dragons who doubted him to be gone. And so even though we don't see this, there's a moment where Fathom and Indigo are hiding, and Albatross explains how Fathom has been a thorn in his side all these years, so he's been feeling this pain, and the massacre is him letting it out and getting quote-unquote revenge, and taking in pride. And so after that, Queen Pearl, who is Fathom's sister, orders him to convince Darkstalker to not use his animus magic. So before I move along further with the plot, I'd also like to say what the culture was like at the time, because we have never seen the Old Night Kingdom before, and it's really interesting to see how they study and how their classes are divided and how the school is described. And so we meet a student named Listener, who is a mind reader, who becomes friends with Clearsight, and we see their own little adventures. So it's really fun to get to know what society is like. We also are described how Rainwings are like shop owners in this book, and they're not the same kind that have lived in the present day, who are more of pacifists and more content. Rainwings in this book are described to be fierce and quote-unquote misbehaved, or as said by Queen Lagoon. So dragons and personalities with the tribes are described to be quite different than we know of them to be in the current series. And so I like little details like that, but this book is very much to the point with the story of Darkstalker. And so further along in the book, he likes things to be in control and with him in command. And so when he meets Indigo, when Fathom and Indigo come to meet Clearsight and Darkstalker, Indigo is immediately all over him and wants him killed. She's like, this is the time to do it, Fathom. But Fathom, he understands Darkstalker's perspective. They're both animus dragons, and that's something that they can relate to, and that's one reason for how they become friends and start to bond a little bit. And so Darkstalker was so close for killing Indigo, and for the rest of the book, they just hate each other. And multiple times, Darkstalker tries to defeat Indigo by not killing him because Darkstalker knows that will destroy Fathom and his confidence, the little confidence that he has, especially after taking an oath to never use his animus magic again, since the Sea Wings don't trust him. And so this is the only other dragon around his age who he can relate to. And so Indigo is not killed, but they hate each other, and Clearsight sees a future where they never get along. And so Clearsight is quite familiar with Fathom because of her visions, and Indigo is like, who is this dragon? And Fathom, he's really calm and collected in these scenes when they meet, and it's not too late in the book where they meet. The beginning is sort of like the foundation of the characters and their early life, and then part 2 is where they meet, and part 3 is where things get chaotic and we get into the more serious parts of the story. And so, like I mentioned earlier, Darkstalker he enchants a gauntlet so that when Fathom drinks it, he'll forget about Indigo, and later on, behind the scenes, he enchants Indigo into a wooden statue, and this shatters Fathom's trust in Darkstalker at the end of the book when he finds out about this, even though at that point Darkstalker is almost gone. There's no stopping him. Once he gets a taste of power and victory, nothing can stop him. And before I move on to one of the most infamous deaths in the series with Prince Arctic, there are things that cause Darkstalker to make some choices that do make sense, and you can empathize with him. And moments like these is like Darkstalker isn't trusted. He gets killed, or their dragon who attempts to kill him several times, once with Indigo and once with the Nightwing assassin. just destroying his trust and loyalty to Queen Vigilance, since it was her idea to hire someone to kill Darkstalker after seeing how powerful and dangerous he can be. And then there was the thing with Foeslayer where she gets captured by Prince Arctic, and so Darkstalker blames Arctic for Foeslayer running away, and it is believed that she is killed. And so that is one of the dragons that Darkstalker loved, and so he blames Arctic because his parents argue and fight a lot, even though deep down they both love each other still. I find it a tragic love story because it goes so well for them at first, but then it's a lot for Arctic to handle being an Animus dragon, and with the Icewings thinking that Foeslayer stole Arctic to have an Animus dragon, to have Nightwings being able to have Animus dragons, it just shattered their trust. And Queen Diamond is no help. Like, she convinced the Icewings that it was Foeslayer's fault. And so the Nightwings therefore blame the Nightwings, and the Nightwings are like, how is it our fault? And so there's war between the two dragon tribes. And even though we don't get any actual battles in this book, there are so many features noted by Clearsight where Icewings are dead and Darkstalker is sitting on the throne, the Nightwing throne. And because once Darkstalker realizes that he can make things happen, he's in control, things go off the rails. And before things go crazy, I do like how he has the idea of the Talesman to keep his soul secure and safe. So, like, he has good intentions, but chooses such dark paths to get there. Like, he doesn't want dragons on the street going hungry or having dragons to live in fear. Like, he wants to have a bright future. He has good intentions, but the way that he's doing it is so dangerous and terrifying for other dragons. And an example of this is towards the end of the book, where Arctic says, like, screw it. He takes White out with her to have her marry an Icewing, and he's just ditching Darkstalker. He's not going to kill his own son, but this is what he wants to do to get Foeslayer back. And Darkstalker, once he hears why Arctic was doing what he was doing, he's like, Foeslayer's gone. What you're doing is pointless. And so he frees White out from an enchantment that Arctic put on her to have her speak normally, because she has the way she talks is unique and different compared to most dragons, and Arctic didn't like that. And so Darkstalker reversed the spell, and then he put an enchantment on Arctic to have him obey Darkstalker's every command. And that's when Fathom and Clearsight saw that there were no happy futures. They could not stop Darkstalker from this point on. And so once that happened, Darkstalker wanted to show his dominance and put on a performance for the Nightwings on defeating his father Arctic. He's like, you're done. Arctic's done. So then they go to the stage, and Darkstalker reveals to the Nightwings, while Arctic is enchanted to admit himself what he was doing. He was betraying the Nightwing tribe. And so Darkstalker sees this as a threat and him endangering his tribe and his loved ones. So Darkstalker enchants Arctic to disembowel himself. And that his father's death shatters and haunts many Nightwing dragons and all of Pyrea. That's how one reason how Darkstalker becomes a frightening myth and legend. And so from that point forward, no one sees a happy future. Clearsight, there's only one way to save the rest of Pyrea, and so that's when Clearsight and Fathom decide to put him to sleep, so because he can't be destroyed. He enchanted himself, his scales and himself to be invulnerable. He's immortal. Like, he had reasons to choose these things so he can live forever and keep Pyria safe, but all these things are used to his advantage. He can't be defeated, so Clearsight has to do this to her soulmate. And there were times where they could have had bright futures, but because of Darkstalker's choices, that didn't happen, and it's really hard to read because these characters legitimately loved each other, and because one is so ambitious, it doesn't, and causes so much fear, they can't stay together anymore. And so Darkstalker sees Clearsight's betrayal, and he is very angry with this. He's like, Fathom convinced you to do this, but Clearsight can't. She's like, maybe it's something you're born with, something I can never control. And Darkstalker gets flustered at this while they're at Gate Mountain, and so then Clearsight puts on the bracelet that Fathom enchanted, despite his oath, but this was the only way they could save the world. And so then Darkstalker is put under the mountain, and Clearsight then wants to find her freedom, live free. And so then now she has a future where she has a choice to do what she wants to do. She doesn't have to live in fear and be controlled anymore. And so then she goes onto her own path, assumingly across the continent, or she leaves the continent to find what she wants to find. And then Fathom frees Indigo as well. And so then he lives his own life with her, and in the epilogue it is shown that they have dragonets. So that is how the Seawing Animus gene carries on. And so we see that with Turtle. And so it's really neat to see how the past of the three protagonists happened. And so even though, like, there's this whole catalyst of how using your animus magic will make you lose your soul. And so Fathom in the epilogue explains maybe it's your choices that makes you lose your soul, not the animus magic. It's your actions, it's who you choose to be. And so that is explored a little bit in this book, but we get further into that in Talons of Power and Darkness of Dragons. And so the ending of this book could have been worse. There was so much dark moments in this where Darkstalker wanted to kill every Icewing. Like, he just hates them, even though himself and his sister are part Icewing. Like, this whole book, there's so much going on. Like, at the beginning, you think things will go okay, and then they don't. And so it's a very serious book, and it has a lot of tone in it. And so because of that and the development with the characters, for all three protagonists, it was amazing. I feel like each had a fair amount of time to read about them. I wish Darkstalker had more chapters, though. But I loved a lot of the scenes in this book. It is very straight up to the point, and I love the history. So this is definitely my top 3 favorite books in Wings of Fire, and I would definitely suggest reading it if you haven't already. And so I think that kind of wraps up this review. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you all on my next one. Bye.